They found an abandoned mansion. Now, local legends say if you enter, it will kill you. This is the Black Hollow Mansion. For over 60 years, no one had dared step foot on the property. Locals claimed to hear screams at night and see shadowy figures moving about inside. But what they didn't know was that on this cold winter day, 4 friends would come to change all of that. Farhan, Tanya, Javed, and Rumi were all YouTubers who documented the creepy things that happened around them. Their channel had thousands of subscribers, and when they heard about the legend of Black Hollow Mansion, they just had to check it out. They parked their car down the road and walked up to the mansion. Its dark windows stared back like soulless eyes. Vines covered the walls and weeds grew through the cracks of the sidewalk. A shiver ran down their spines as they approached the front door. As soon as Farhan knocked, the door creaked open as if inviting them in. He pushed it wider and stepped inside. The others followed. "Guys, look at this place," Javed whispered. The entryway was filled with cobwebs and dust. The air was stale, as if no one had breathed in this house for decades. Farhan flicked on his camera. "What do you think is going to happen?" he asked, though he knew very well the answer to that question. No one had ever set foot in this house and lived to tell the tale. They continued deeper into the house. Cobwebs brushed against their faces and the floor creaked ominously beneath their feet. Up ahead, they saw a grand staircase spiraling upwards into the darkness. To their right was a hallway lined with portraits of stern-faced men and women whose eyes seemed to follow them as they passed below. Tanya suddenly stopped. She pointed at one of the portraits. "Look at that one," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. It was a woman in a Victorian nightgown. Her hair was pulled back tightly and her eyes were wide and staring. But what made it different from the others was that her face had been crudely scratched out. Whoever had done it had not done a very good job either. You could still make out the woman's beautiful features, but the sight of it sent a chill down their spines. "Let's just get this over with," Javed said nervously. No one wanted to be the first to turn back, so they pressed on. Deeper into the mansion they went until they reached a large room. At the far end they saw a rocking cradle. It was old and made of wood. It looked like something from a horror movie. As they approached, they heard it start rocking on its own. They froze, unsure of what to do. Then they started to run. Farhan tripped over a loose floorboard and fell. Scrambling to his feet, he ran after the others. They needed to get out of this house, and fast. As they burst through a door at the end of the hall, they found themselves in what must have once been a child's room. Toys lay strewn across the floor, and a doll sat in the corner, its head facing the wall. But it wasn't the doll that caught their attention. It was the message scrawled on the wall in what looked like dried blood. "Welcome back, family," it read. They searched the room and soon found a diary hidden under a loose floorboard. It was bound in leather and locked. But as Farhan opened it, he realized that it wasn't locked. The pages inside were brittle with age. The diary belonged to a woman named Elizabeth. It told the story of her family and the strange events that had been happening in the house. Elizabeth had moved into the house with her husband and son shortly after it had been built. At first, everything had been fine, but then strange things started to happen. Doors would slam shut on their own. Objects would move and they would hear disembodied voices. Then one day, Elizabeth's son disappeared. She had never been the same since. She wrote about the guilt she felt, knowing that she should have protected her son, but she just couldn't understand why this was happening to them. Then the tone of the diary changed. Elizabeth's handwriting became frantic as she wrote about the curse that had been placed on the house. According to legend, the previous owner had killed his entire family before taking his own life. His spirit, along with the spirits of his family, had been trapped in the house ever since. They fed on the emotions of those who lived there, driving them to madness. Elizabeth believed that her son had been taken by the spirits. She wrote about the scratches on the walls and the rocking cradle, and how she could feel the presence of her son when the rocking cradle moved. The last page of the diary was blank except for the name written on it. It was Farhan's name. Farhan felt a chill run down his spine. Could what Elizabeth had feared all those years ago be happening to him now? Was this house really cursed? And if so, how could he escape? Before any of them could speak, the house shook violently. They all hit the ground, bracing for whatever might come next. Dust rained down from the ceiling as pictures fell off the walls and slithered towards them like venomous snakes. Each portrait had a face in it. Their eyes glowed an eerie red in the dim light, but it was the one with the scratched-out face that terrified them the most. The face that had been obscured was now clear as day. It was Farhan's face, contorted in terror. A deep voice boomed through the room. "You were chosen, Farhan. The mansion needs new blood." The friends screamed and ran, but the halls seemed to twist and turn, leading them deeper into the house. Doors slammed shut behind them, sealing their fate. They were trapped. Javed stumbled and fell. He cried out in pain as he scraped his knee on the floor. "Help me," he shouted, but no one came. Rumi turned and ran in the opposite direction, but the stairs she had just climbed vanished beneath her feet. She fell, tumbling down what seemed like a never-ending staircase. Farhan and Tanya clung to each other as they raced through the house. They didn't know where they were going, but they had to keep moving. They could hear Javed and Rumi behind them, their voices growing fainter by the second. Then they saw it, a door at the end of the hall. Hope surged through them. If they could just get outside, they could escape the house and all of its horrors. But as they reached for the door, a shadow detached itself from the wall and lunged at them. Farhan and Tanya screamed and ran again, deeper into the maze of rooms and corridors. But it was no use. The house was alive, breathing, and it wanted them dead. One by one, the shadows dragged their friends away, vanishing up the staircase or through the walls. Finally, it was just Farhan and Tanya left. They huddled together, their backs against the wall, as the shadows closed in on them. The last thing they saw was the face of the woman in the portrait, her eyes glowing red in the darkness. Then everything went black. In the morning, the villagers found 4 cameras lying on the floor inside the house. The final recording on Tanya's camera showed Farhan and Tanya running through the house with the caption, "Help me," written across the screen. Then the image glitches and the sound of their screams echoed throughout the room. As the screen went black, a single word was written in the dust: "Run!" The footage cut off abruptly and the camera fell to the ground, leaving the rest of the story untold. To this day, Black Hollow Mansion still stands, waiting for its next visitors. Some say if you go there, you can still hear the screams of Farhan and Tanya echoing through the halls. Others say that if you look closely at the portrait of the woman with the scratched-out face, you can see that the face has changed. Now it looks exactly like Tanya.